Hi, my name is Angela Bradford. I'm a registered licensed dietitian, and today I'll be discussing Vietnamese food and culture. Objectives of the presentation today are to learn traditional food practices for the Vietnamese, identify nutrition concerns for current food practices, and understand cultural components to consider when counseling. Traditional foods for the Vietnamese are rice, sesame, peanuts, tofu, green vegetables, poultry, and fish. Rice is a staple food and is eaten in many different ways like noodles, paper for spring rolls, flour, and vinegar. Fruit is not widely eaten because it is expensive and thought to be a high status food. Pho is the name of the popular rice noodle broth based dish. And I have a picture here on the slide to the left of that actual dish. So that's the pho dish pictured there. Fried noodles topped with meats and vegetables is also a favorite noodle dish. Fish and poultry are widely available, but in general, the traditional diet is low in protein. Dairy is not widely available, so soy milk is a popular beverage along with other soy products such as tofu and tempeh. Religious holidays dictate the serving of special meals. Buddhism is widespread throughout Vietnam, and as such, many Vietnamese do not eat meat, seafood, chicken, or eggs on the first and middle days of each lunar month. The lunar month is the time between a new moon to new moon, which is typically about 29 days. At the bottom of the slide, I have a picture of the phases between the new moons. So you see the new moon goes through stages until it gets to another new moon. So in between that time period, the Vietnamese will not eat meat or eggs on the first and the middle day of that month. The most popular and important holiday for the Vietnamese is Tet. That's the New Year's celebration. Offerings of cake, chicken, tea, rice, and money are made at family celebrations, and then the family will eat the food offerings. One belief during the New Year is that when a watermelon is cut open, the redder the flesh, the more lucky the family will, the more luck the family will have in the upcoming year. Many Vietnamese follow the yin-yang theory of diet and believe that foods must be balanced within a meal. The yin and yang views cold foods as negative energy and hot foods as being a positive energy food. The Vietnamese typically eat 2 or 3 meals a day. Snacking between meals is uncommon unless you live in an urban area. In those urban areas, they have food carts, kind of like street vendors there that have hot snacks, small hot meals to sell. But that again is in the urban areas. In general, specific foods are not associated with a particular meal. For example, soup or broth may be eaten with every meal. Breakfast is typically large and may consist of soup with rice noodles topped with meat like poultry. They might eat a boiled egg with meat and pickled veggies on French bread, or boiled sweet potatoes with sugar, coconut, and chopped roasted pecans. Lunch and dinner include similar foods, such as rice, fish, or meat, a vegetable dish, and a broth. Fish sauce, fresh and pickled vegetables, and other condiments typically accompany the meal. Hot tea is the preferred beverage and is served before and after the meals, but never during the meal. And after the meals, they typically like to enjoy some type of dessert or a piece of sweet fruit if they're able to afford that fruit, and they'll drink a hot tea with that. Traditional Vietnamese medicine includes many indigenous folk therapies and herbal medicines and practices. Many of the practices are based on the belief that illnesses are caused by a toxic wind, and that toxic wind enters the body from the outside. The Vietnamese frequently use techniques to remove that toxic wind, and a technique that they use, an example of one of the techniques that they would use would be something called wind snatching. And with wind snatching, they use their fingers to pinch and snap away the skin to remove that toxic wind. For more severe chronic conditions, the patients are often treated with home-prepared herbal teas and soups prescribed by doctors. In the United States, the materials they need to make these herbal teas or soups, they can typically be found at a local grocery store or a farmer's market. Changes in access to food may explain dietary changes among immigrant Vietnamese in the United States. Increases in dairy and fresh fruit consumption occur after immigration to the United States, while the number of meals consumed per day actually decreases. Vegetable and meat consumption also decrease after immigration. The consumption of the composition of the diet of a large proportion of the population has shifted to include lower amounts of starchy staples like rice and greater amounts of protein and fat-rich foods that have a higher calorie content and not as much nutrients. So it's not very nutrient-dense food. Depending on the health status of the client, some areas of concern could be that the Vietnamese diet is generally low in protein. There would need to be education on how to increase protein intake with consideration to the types of protein most eaten in their diet. A staple food is white rice, which has less nutrients like fiber, so education on brown rice being a healthier option would be beneficial. The main vegetables eaten are green vegetables. A colorful variety of fruits and vegetables will help the client have a more balanced diet and would help to promote more nutrient-dense foods. So what we hear often here in the United States is the Harvard plate or choose my plate, where they talk about having half of your plate fruits and vegetables and choosing whole grains, like what I was saying about the rice, choosing the brown rice over the white rice, and having a lean meat, which is what the Vietnamese typically eat anyway. But making that plate more colorful is also something promoted here, just to have more nutrients, get more antioxidants, help to have a healthier, more balanced diet. The Vietnamese are accustomed to a more paternalistic approach to healthcare delivery. So what that means is healthcare professionals are authority figures who are well respected. And the Vietnamese not only will expect absolute guidance from healthcare professionals, but also will follow all guidance without questioning their decisions. So the conversations are usually led by the healthcare professional. It's not going to be a patient care, a patient-centered approach, and there's not really much of that conversation between the patient and the healthcare professional. It's more like the professional is telling them what to do, and they follow it wholeheartedly without questioning whether it's the best decision or the best guidance for them to follow, or even whether they would, whether they have any barriers to following that guidance. That's not part of the discussion. So motivational interviewing would be very beneficial with a Vietnamese client, just knowing that that's how they typically interact with healthcare professionals, because you want to have the greatest benefit for that client. So the motivational interviewing would keep the conversation on whatever is most important to the client and keep it patient-centered. The use of open-ended questions would help the nutrition professional know the level of understanding the client has, and would give the professional an opportunity to provide any information to fill in the gaps. It also gives them a chance to have that conversation and know what stage of change the client actually is in, just to help them know what type of goals that the client can make to better improve their health outcomes. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.